Hearing none, item number 4 is the approval of the salary board actions. Is there a motion to approve those actions? Is there a second? I will
I'll
second. We have a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just have a question to ask. I'm a little confused relative to the status of the creation of one of these positions, the Human Resources Assistant position. I understand there was a position that had been eliminated previously. And I understand we have an employee who has left or is in the process of leaving. But if I am looking at this correctly, we currently have 3 assistant, human resource assistants, positions that are already in place. Is that correct or incorrect?
The last salary board, we eliminated one of the assistant positions.
Okay, well, what I was aware of back when the compensation plan was approved is there was a vacant human resources
That's a
assistant.
part-time position. It doesn't distinguish between part-time and full-time, so the vacant one is a part-time position.
Okay, all right. So this is not then creating an additional position?
Correct.
All right, fine, thank you.
Any other discussion on the salary board actions? There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 5, is there any other business to come before the salary board? Hearing none, we're adjourned. If you would stand as you're able to join me in the pledge. I say, I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So again, good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the Board of Commissioners meeting for the 20th of July. May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Frost?
Present.
Commissioner Hertzler?
Here.
Commissioner Eichenberger?
Is there any public comment to come before the Board of Commissioners? Item number 4 is approval of personnel transactions. Is there a motion to approve those transactions?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any further discussion on the personnel transactions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 5 is a letter of support from Hampton Township for grant funding through the multimodal transportation fund to support transportation improvements along a portion of Carlisle Pike in Hampton Township. Is there a motion for a letter of support?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion on the letter? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 6 is also a letter of support. This is for the Borough of Carlisle for the B Street project. Is there a motion for a letter of support for the borough?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion on this project? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 7, is there a motion for the resolution authorizing the submission of the 2015 Emergency Solutions Grant application?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 8, you have before you the approval of the contracts and grants that were reviewed at the July 16th workshop. They are A through I. Is there a motion for those contracts and grants?
So moved.
Is there a second?
There is not. I'm going to ask for these to be separated out simply because we had quite a bit of discussion regarding one of the contracts proposed under item H. We've asked the chief clerk to bring us information, do some decision-making on that, and I think it would be premature to approve that before we've had the opportunity for him to tell us what he's found out.
All right. We will go through.
I'll amend my motion then to approve contracts and grants, items A through G, and skipping over H and also to include I.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion on A through G and I? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number H, there are 4 items listed for public safety agreements. Taking these individually or collectively, I believe the last item is the item for additional discussion.
The third and the fourth item.
Because they both tie in together.
Yes.
You can't do one without the other.
Yes.
Got it. Under public safety, I, the 2015 State Homeland Security Grant Program Agreement, is there a motion for that agreement?
So moved. Second.
Will be recorded.
One of us.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, we're done with that. Move right on. All right, the second is the annual hazardous material emergency response preparedness report. Is there a motion for that annual report?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The following 2 items are the Phone Recovery Service LLC and a letter of engagement with Dilworth Paxton LLC regarding the recovery of outstanding 911 associated revenue that may be due to county, as I understand from numerous and rather lengthy discussion with other counties that have so entered into an agreement, what you want to call it, to do this. There are still some outstanding questions. I had, may I finish? I had been aware of this for quite some time through the governance committee at CCAP. And one, I guess my question initially is, this is a sole source provider and no other company, I guess, is out there doing this. And within the Commonwealth then, Dilworth Paxton has then established this as a boutique or niche service that they alone, I guess, are providing to those who are interested. Is that correct?
Yeah, Phone Recovery Service is the one with a really truly unique skill or asset. Dilworth is the legal thing that surrounds that, but they are working in partnership and presenting us.
So one will not work without the other.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And the 40% is not negotiable.
The 40% is the norm. I'm going to let Sandy talk about her results. I spoke extensively with the folks at Dolphin. They were offered the same 40, and they did not haggle that much with them and felt that the 40% cut, although regrettable, was acceptable to them.
Paid upon receiving revenue.
Totally based on contingency basis.
And I guess there's about 11% out there that hasn't quite been recovered, from what I have been able to read over the last couple of days.
And I spoke to Berks County, Dauphin County, Delaware County, and they all are paying 40% contingency fee. They did not dispute that because they felt that there was a lot of work that could be done, that needs to be done in order to recover those services. And they didn't have anyone within the courthouse to take care of that, so they were all in agreement with that.
No one else has come forward to compete with,
That's correct.
with this.
Well, if I can add, we talked to Sid, our consultant with 911, and Sid made it clear that there were other entities working in Texas and California on this thing, but it was much simpler because the multi-party lines billing had already been separated out from the single part, so it was much easier to do. But really what you needed to do, what's necessary in DC, Jersey, Pennsylvania, and similar states where the charges are intermingled, is you needed a special algorithm and a computer program to be able to go into their database. And that at this point, Phone Recovery Services is the only entity that offers that at this point.
And the reach back is what, 6 to 2 years?
This is where.
6 months to 2 years?
This is where Dilworth Paxson comes in. This is all going to be determined in front of the courts. The minimum is 2 years, but if they can prove willful obfuscation, if you may, that they willfully tried to create mischief by making their stuff undiscoverable, the hope is that it will be extended back for 6 years. So minimum 2, optimistically, best case scenario 6. And the final factor that we were asked to investigate was whether or not it made any difference to do it immediately versus waiting 2 weeks, 2 months, or what have you. And what we found is that the trade-off vis-a-vis doing it after August 1st, 2015, i.e. filing your complaint, was simply for every day beyond that, you took 1 day off the beginning of whether it's 2 years or 6 years. So it's a one-for-one trade-off. There is one other element that we were advised that under the new law, the telcos were thwarted in their effort to get amnesty for any undergoings in the past. They were able to stick in there a change that changes the formula for calculating what the charges would be. It's the difference between a trunk and a phone line. You can have multiple phone lines, everybody's phone number, running off any number
A
of
hotel,
different trunks.
a hospital, institutional,
Right.
or commercial.
Right, and what this does before August 1st, if you file before August 1st, the deal is under the old legislation, you would look at the charges for each of the lines.
Each individual number.
The individual lines. The new legislation allows telcos to group lines under trunks, and then you can only look at the charges on the trunk basis. The trunk is what comes in from the telco into your phone switch. And that's what determines how many calls. So there is a possibility that if we wait till after August 1st, that we would then, our claim would be scrutinized under this new formula, which is more favorable to some degree to the telcos than the formula that will be in place prior to August 1st. There is no significant trade-off in terms of time. We don't lose exponential time if we go past. It'll either be for the 2 years or the 6 years, but it will start on the date of the complaint.
So it's on a rolling basis, which is essentially what I assumed it might be. I asked about the delay only for the reason that this was presented to us very, an expectation of a very rapid turnaround. And we didn't have all the facts, so we've gathered a lot of the facts now. So mainly that the time doesn't really give us an opportunity to find any alternatives, because you're saying there are no alternatives.
According to our best advice that we got from Sid, who's got no skin in the game.
Right.
That's what he said.
Do we know if, I think the other question I asked was not just is everybody paying 40%, but did anybody attempt to negotiate? Did anybody offer that 30% is more in line with historical norms?
People arrive.
Everybody just took it.
Okay.
So something's better than nothing.
Right.
Okay.
And that's what the offer said.
Something's better than nothing.
Yes. Especially if it's on their side of the road.
Well, but the question is then, we don't enter in this agreement with a class action. We enter in this as Cumberland County.
Right.
So why can't Cumberland County go forward with 30%?
We could try to negotiate that.
I'm simply saying, because they all did, does not mean that you're going to get the same answer. You're probably going to get the same answer, and I realize that. But because nobody else asked and simply accepted it, I mean, I think 40% is outrageous when an industry's been set up and there's no competition. What, I'm supposed to be thankful that it's not 50 or 60? No, I'm just, I find that to be.
I'd be very inclined to ask for that as well. The problem here is we have no negotiating leverage if we have no alternatives. So in
No,
this
they just
case,
say, okay, well, you won't get any of your money, whether that's $500,000, that's $1 million, and why would we walk away from that?
that's
But it's
unfortunate.
been set up so out of balance for, getting this money returned to where it should be. You were.
Well, I was gonna say something, but,
You-
I was waiting for the motion to be put before us, and I'd be pleased to do that. Make a motion to approve the agreement with phone recovery services in Cumberland, Jackson. And we need a second to move the discussion forward, I think.
I'll make a second for the discussion.
Well, one of the things I think that we need to.
Is there a prepared letter? I mean, did they already give us the letter that we signed? I'm sure they did. Okay.
Yeah, look, I think that, it's understandable that, that certainly does sound high to me as well in terms of what essentially the fee would be. I think what's important to remember too is that, we're not going to recover any of this unless we, participate in this. And there are no other entities out there that we're aware of that, have the experience, expertise, knowledge on the subject. Now, whether or not they're ultimately successful is still a question. But Dauphin County, Berkshire County have entered into this agreement at 40%. I understand Lancaster and York are about ready to do so as well. And we could try to go back to these entities and say, we're only going to do it if you only take 30%. And my fear is that, essentially what they will say is that, well, we don't need Cumberland County to move forward here. And then we don't have anybody going after the $1.6 million that the telcos were supposed to have collected, from certain entities, and we lose it all.
Okay, so the reach back in the courts could be minimum of 2, back to 6. What about going forward? Where is this going forward? Does this set up them to pay us, or are we in this perpetual arrangement that they don't pay, Dilworth, Paxton, whoever gets 40%, and we continue to recover? That's my question. Does this solve the issue and they pay us going forward, or are we locked into this in perpetuity that the telcos will never pay? We got to go after them, and we're in this cycle.
I believe the new legislation, I cannot speak this for a fact, but I believe the new legislation has a stronger audit component built into it, but we can verify that.
Okay,
Let's just check.
stronger audit, but they still don't pay, and we're back doing the same thing again?
Potentially.
Yeah, I think one of the arguments that was made here, Barb, by the representative
Yeah.
from Dilworth, Paxton, and also from Recovery One, was that hopefully the telcos that, essentially were not doing what they were supposed to do under the law as a result of this legal action being brought against them to seek damages for what they didn't do in the past,
We'll learn the
they
lesson.
would never learn the lesson, okay? But,
Okay.
and one of the things that's, I think, that it's important that I took out of what the presentation was, is that, years ago, telephone companies used to be a monopoly, okay? We have a competitive market out there, and some entities, are able to cut costs and cut make themselves more competitive by not playing by the rules.
Well, yeah, I mean, the laundry list
So,
had 15
yeah.
entities listed there or
Yeah,
more,
so-
recovery dollars.
So, I think,
So-
and the other argument, of course, that was made too, was that, essentially as a result of this, our individual customers, our ordinary consumers, our seniors who are paying their telephone bills every month, they're ended up paying more because a lot of these larger commercial entities, weren't paying what they were supposed to pay. Now, it's not necessarily the fault of the businesses. It's the fault of the telephone companies for not, collecting these fees. And that's what we're doing. We're going back after the telephone company because, They were supposed to, under the law, collect these fees. And so that's the damages that we're seeking. And again, we don't know what we're going to get out of this, but I know if we don't move forward, we're going to get nothing. So.
Do we know if I'm not sure how to formulate that question. The one thing I'm just going to mention is there's no competitive advantage to not complying with this for any telco. They didn't collect the money and not going to bid. They just didn't do it. So it's not like they got to keep it. There's no real inherent advantage in that. My guess is that it was more trouble to administer than it was worth, or else there was ambiguity in the way the law was in terms of knowing what to charge. So in which case they just didn't do it. Now that would potentially be a competitiveness issue if you were being asked to voluntarily reach a higher standard because the law is vague. In that case,
Well, they were, Gary, the only thing I would say to that is, I mean, the way I was thinking of is in some companies, by keeping their bills lower because they weren't collecting this from the customers, they, essentially had a competitive advantage then because essentially they were to keep their rates down below what other telephone companies who were collecting this fee were charging. So that was, at least the thought process I was using to make that suggestion.
Right, and I think that Williams made it, once one of them found that they could get away with it, everybody follows.
it's possible. I mean, that's conjecture. And again, I point to possibly ambiguities in the law. I'd like to get this money back as much as anybody. But if I heard was correct, York and Lancaster have not signed, but they supposedly are looking at it. Did we poll them to know if they're finding 40% acceptable? And what I'm getting at is if there are other counties that might be more demanding because we were more demanding, I wouldn't mind starting that ball rolling.
I didn't talk to.
Do it Paxson and Phone Recovery, or whatever their name is. They have to generate a certain volume of this thing for it to be profitable, or it's not going to do it. They've got a monopoly. That's the monopoly that exists here. It's not the phone companies anymore. This is the monopoly. The law firm essentially has nobody else who can take this business away from them. So they've got a stranglehold on county treasurers across Pennsylvania. All or nothing. So the question I have is, can we find out if other counties would be willing to negotiate? If we and not simply given just because other counties were willing to accept that or at that amount of 40%. So we did not talk to either of those two.
No.
So, and I'm sorry, you did send that around, because I don't have it pulled up right now. So you talked to Berks and Dolphin.
And Delaware,
And
you said,
Okay.
those
And
three.
they've all agreed to 40%.
Yeah, Delaware's already filed.
I'm sorry?
Delaware's already filed their complaint.
Oh, okay.
With the
They've
courts.
taken it.
We have a motion and a second, and so I'm going to let the discussion.
I guess I'd like to find out if these other counties have any interest in forming a cartel opposition, I guess.
I know Landon County, you can find out really quickly this week. Next Wednesday. This Wednesday.
Oh,
All those counties are going to be at the soiree around transportation.
Transit.
Yes, if you like.
Is there any sunshine from?
We've already sunshine the,
Oh,
any county that had more
For
than
the-
one commissioner going.
This thing's hanging out there now.
For
So,
Right. I was just
can
gonna,
we take this to a table for the next workshop?
you can, if you'd like. For my,
Go ahead.
if I could just add to this, a contingent fee of 33% to 40% is fairly standard when it comes to collecting.
Is what?
Standard.
When it comes to collecting funds. I've seen it many, many times for many years. So I do understand your concern of wanting or having to pay 40%, but I'm just telling you from my experience, it's not uncommon.
I would hope that we could act on this today, and I understand the desire to get a lower fee, but I am concerned about ultimately if we wait beyond August 1st, because if in fact the court decides to use the provisions of the new law, as I understand it, we would be potentially jeopardizing, what we would, consideration with respect to how the previous law charged the individual phone lines versus the new law, which I understand we may end up getting less as a result.
And we don't know where it is in the Delaware. If they've already filed, we don't know how long that's way through the courts.
No, we do know that the sort of litmus case in this is the DC case, and that was filed 2 years ago. And, I mean, there's nothing wrong. I mean, there's been no significant progress made on that. So, my imagination is that the telcos will probably try to drag this out as long as they possibly can.
Sure.
There's a DC case that's kind of like the first one, and that's been sitting in the dockets for about 2 years.
But what we don't want to do is miss that one, August. If there's the consensus to file.
Describe that to me again. What is the difference that takes hold on the look back provision if
The
we
formula
wait
for
till that?
calculating, the whole issue of the underbilling was that, as you recall, the gentleman from Dilworth, he said that his company has 200 some odd phones, and they were only being billed for single figures lines, okay? What Dilworth and Phone Recovery are trying to do now is for every line, current, i.e. pre-August 1st legislation, for every line you have, there should be a charge associated with it, okay? Under the new legislation, it's sort of a halfway between the illegal thing that the telcos were doing and what Dilworth, Paxson, and all of us would like, which would be the maximum possible potential, i.e. for every line there should be a charge. Under the new legislation that becomes effective August 1st, the formula for calculating this will be based not on lines, it will be on trunks. And there is always in any phone system fewer trunks than there are lines. There are probably more trunks than there were lines billed under their nefarious old practices. So we'd be better off than we were, but not as potentially well off as we would be if there was a charge for every line.
All right, so the new legislation takes effect August 1.
Correct.
And that is essentially the cleanup of the ambiguity that exists in terms of, yes, we tax this, but we don't know what it is.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions? Any further discussion?
Larry, how important do you think that August 1 timeframe is?
I think it's important enough to, I mean, I think the big questions were, could we have time to consider it? And the answer is yes. The second big question is, could we do anything better than the 40%? And I would say particularly, and I don't want to put the onus on Keith, but there's no, I mean, conspiracy, I mean, a counter cartel would be a long shot to do. It would take time if it ever materialized at all. If it were up to me, I
I don't
would.
disagree. I think if you got 4, 5, 6 counties to say no, we're not paying that, then that puts a
I think
significant dent.
Given the trouble that we've had getting them to do anything on regionalization,
Sure. Realism has to enter.
I'm sorry, I hate to
itself.
be realistic. I would go ahead and do this practice before this.
Are we obligated toward any minimal payment to either of these vendors for their services? 100% contingency based.
Yeah, I think that's the important point to underscore here, is that this is not costing, our taxpayers one dime.
Right.
Now, on the other hand, the question is, how, could we get a larger recovery if the contingency fee were lower? Yes. All right. The question is there any viable way to have a lower contingency fee? And I don't believe there is.
But just-
Essentially, my my understanding of this is that, we're one of the smaller counties in the bunch. And, so I think that, in terms of us being participants here, I think it's beneficial to our county to move forward.
And just the expenses we've had, or the investments you want to call them, in recovering of other fees and fines and all, there has been an investment for that.
Yeah, I mean,
So if I treat this as the 40% that is the investment for the return then on what this sole source can provide, I'm still not happy with this by any means, but failing to address fines and restitution and all that, we would not have moved forward with that unit also.
Potentially forfeit 100%.
So,
So that's our dilemma.
well, in order for this to succeed, if I could, this is, first of all, we have different sized law firms. This is one of the largest law firms in Pennsylvania, okay? You would assume that they have the wherewithal, and I think that's the issue. Their forensic audits and the investment that they're going to put into this to succeed for themselves, but also for us, right, is pretty significant. Again, we could try to go it alone. I just don't think, I wonder about our success at going along and the cost that would be involved in that. So, on this one, I think the fact that there are a number of counties that are moving forward, large counties in Pennsylvania, I think it makes sense for us to join this bandwagon in this case.
If you look at it from Commissioner Cross' point of view, let's say there's 100,000, just for example. If we lose 40,000, that's our investment. We're getting 60,000 for 40,000 investment. That's 150% rate of return.
here's a motion in a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Item number 9, the approval of resolution, and these will be separate. Resolution 2015-18 for the budget adjustment. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item B on that is resolution 2015-19, the intermunicipal resolution supporting the MS4 requirements. Is there a motion for that resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 10, is there a motion, and we will take these separately too, for the capital projects request from the Department of Public Safety. The first is prison tower structural modification for a total cost of $44,819. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The second capital project request from the Department of Public Safety is the ESTA Pool Tower exterior sheeting for a project cost of $15,892.32. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 11, two county policies for human resources. And again, separately, is there a motion for the approval of the county policy for the garage liability and garage keepers insurance policy? Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item B is the approval of the county owned park assignment policy. Is there a motion for the approval of that policy? Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Item number 12. Is there a motion for the approval of the legislative letter for local advocacy for the county human services budget priorities?
I'll make a motion to approve the letter.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Where are we sending this? This is going to all of our legislators, is that the?
Going down
Yes.
the
Okay.
legislative.
Traditionally, it's
Yeah.
passed, gone in the past. There is a motion and a second.
Yeah, the only comment I would make is that essentially this is underscoring one of the flaws in the budget that was recently passed by the General Assembly and vetoed by Governor Wolf, and hopefully, once everybody sits down and gets responsible with respect to the state budget, this issue can be addressed.
Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 13, is there a motion to approve the award of the contract for the Bernheiser Bridge Superstructure Replacement Project to the lowest reputable contractor, which is Omar Site Development Corporation, in the amount of $1,352,734.49. Is there a second?
I'm going to be abstaining from this one.
I will second. Is there any further discussion?
Just for the record, I'm abstaining because of family connection. I have no financial interest in that business, but there's a family connection. So as I've historically done, I'm abstaining from any votes doing a little more over insurance divisions.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And one abstention. Item number 14, is there a motion for the approval of the proposed historic mitigation plan for the Wolf Bridge?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 15, is there a motion for the approval of Resolution 2015-21, the South Central Workforce Investment Board reappointments, as presented by Commissioner Eichelberg?
I'll make the motion for appointment.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion on the reappointments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 16, by the General Disbursement Transfer Authorizations A through H. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 17, I'd like to report an executive session held July the 16th, 2015 at 10:15 a.m. for personnel issues. Item number 18, I'd like to acknowledge the receipt of the monthly reports of the coroner, the pathonetary, the register of wills, and the recorder of deeds for the month of June. The coroner had been present but received a call. Under other business, do you know, Larry, if coroner had anything for the business? Okay. But the solicitor does.
I do. The new act addressing 911 funds has a provision in it that requires the county, Oregon County, to adopt a resolution in the same manner as you would an ordinance so that you can receive those funds. And I'm requesting that today, by motion, you authorize me to prepare and advertise a resolution for adoption at the July 30th meeting. I will do it in such a way that it'll be effective August 1st.
I will still make that motion for the resolution for the adoption of 911 new legislation for action required July 30th at the workshop.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I have a request for executive session for personnel issues. Is there any other business? None. Thank you very much for adjourning.